Hello everyone and welcome to another furniture flipping video where I show you step by step the process I use to redo and flip this beautiful mid-century dresser for a profit. This dresser is actually part of a set that comes with another dresser in a 6-drawer configuration. I picked this set up from Craigslist for $90 a piece or $180 total, and they are in very good shape to start, so all I need to do is give them a good makeover. As I do with any piece I'm working on, I like to remove all the drawers and hardware and clean with TSP degreaser so that I can start with a nice clean surface and don't sand any dirt or debris into the wood or waste my sanding pads. As you can see from this microfiber towel, I removed a lot of dirt that could potentially clog up my sanding pads and make the process a bit harder than it should be. I'm also removing the hardware before cleaning in order to get any dirt from behind it and so that I can prep them to be painted. I mentioned in the beginning of the video that this dresser came in a set, but I will only be showing the steps for this taller one because the process is exactly the same for both. I am being commissioned by a client of mine for these pieces, and we decided together to strip the drawer fronts down and restain them a different color. I start with an 80 grit piece of sandpaper to remove the original finish, and lucky for me, I'm working with solid wood and not veneer, so I don't have to worry about sanding through it. I decided to hook my sander up to a small shop vac that I have in order to limit the amount of dust that is created, and let me tell you, this helped out tremendously to keep the dust down in my shop. Here I'm using clean strip paint and varnish stripper because the finish on this dresser is more of a plastic laminate and sanding was just going to take way too long. I go ahead and apply a fair amount of stripper to the drawers and use a cheap disposable brush to spread it around. The instructions call for a 30-minute set time before removing the finish with a scraper. I did notice this particular stripper is very watery and doesn't really have that gel-like consistency that I'm used to and isn't sticking very well to the finish. After checking over the product, I realized I had grabbed the green safe version, which is why it is reacting this way. The body of this dresser is going to be painted in a black color, so all I have to do is give it a nice scuff sand to rough up the surface in order for the paint and primer to adhere better. I'm using a 120 grit sanding pad, and I feel that's good enough to scuff it up, but also leave it nice and smooth. After sanding, it was time to remove the finish from the drawers, and as you can see, it's not coming off very well. I guess the green version of this stripper uses less harmful chemicals, which compromises how well it works. I don't show it here, but I actually had to use the stripper twice and sand it down, starting with 80 grit, then moving to 150 grit, and finally ending with 220 grit for a nice smooth finish. Another step I forgot to record was filling any little dips and dings with DAP wood filler to get rid of any imperfections before I apply my primer. I'm using a 220 grit sanding block to knock down and smooth out the filler without removing any of it from the dings I filled in. I propped the body up on some furniture painter pyramid stands so that the base of the dresser isn't sitting on the drop cloth because I removed the legs so that I can stain them. I'm using a water-based primer by Kills that is a very good stain and odor blocker, thinned with water at a ratio of 20% water and 80% primer in order to use my HVLP spray gun for that brush stroke free finish. In the background, you can see the matching piece to this set. I would have loved to refinish them both at the same time as they are getting the same color and stain, but my shop is getting a little cramped with future projects, and having two dressers out at once wasn't really possible. The color stain I'm using is Red Mahogany by Behr, and it's an oil-based penetrating stain. The instructions recommend you let sit for at least 2 hours if you plan on adding a second or third coat depending on the color you want. They also recommend you let dry for at least 12 to 24 hours before applying the top coat. My client wanted the second dresser to be a bit more reddish orange colored than the first dresser, so what I did was apply the Red Mahogany stain, let sit for 2 hours, and applied a dark walnut stain over top of it, and at the end of the video you will see that one dresser is a bit lighter and the other is darker and richer in color. I'm using Behr Premium Paint and Primer in 1 in one of my favorite black colors called Limousine Leather. I'm thinning it with water by about a 1:4 ratio in order to spray it using my spray gun. I'm mixing it in my sprayer, which I don't recommend doing, but I ran out of mixing cups, and for some reason my local big box store was all sold out. I didn't like how the drawers looked a bit blotchy after applying the first coat of stain, so I decided to strip them back down, which wasn't too bad, in order to apply wood stain conditioner, which helps with giving a more uniform look. I apply about 2 to 3 coats of paint and sand in between each coat using 220 grit sandpaper so that each layer has a nice textured surface to stick to, giving you a stronger, more durable coating. For the final top coat, I like to use my favorite water-based polyurethane by Behr in a satin finish. It doesn't need to be thinned out like the paint does, as I found it sprays just fine. I also add just a touch of the black paint to the clear finish in order to avoid any cloudiness or streaks. The top coat goes on in a blue color, but once dry it will be completely clear and that blue tint will go away in most cases. Sometimes temperature can play a role in how it dries, especially if the weather is very humid. It can come out a little cloudy, or when it's really cold it can take longer to dry in between coats. I'll typically spray about 2 coats of this clear with sanding in between each coat with 220 grit sandpaper, and fortunately for me here in California, the temperature is pretty warm throughout the day, so I'm able to start sanding about 45 minutes after each application. I like to use these filters for any paint or top coat to prevent any particles from clogging up my spray gun, and these are very inexpensive and disposable as well. This was definitely a very fun project for me, and I am so happy with the way these 2 pieces turned out, and after showing some pictures to my client, she was definitely happy as well. Now that we have all the hardware installed, let's go ahead and get the drawers installed and take a look at some before photos as well as the final reveal. Now that we are at the end of the video, let's go over the numbers and see what kind of profit was made. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I purchased these 2 dressers for $180. I spent about $60 on material, putting me at a total cost of $240. I spent about 10 hours in total on both pieces and sold them to my client for $1,000, including delivery. That puts me at a profit of $760, or an hourly rate of $76 an hour. Thank you so much for sticking with me on another exciting furniture flip, and I'll see you on the next one.